The U.S. government wins. Philip Wiggle is sentenced to death by hanging, and George Washington pardons him. It's interesting because in a prior newsletter that we put out in Shots, if you read it, you would know that George Washington loved his whiskey. He even had a distillery on his property during the late 1700s. And so it's interesting that Philip Wiggle was pardoned. But that is the story. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Social Drinkers Podcast, where we talk about the art, science, and industry of alcohol. Social drinkers, unite.
Unite. It's like SpongeBob.
It's like SpongeBob. That's awesome. How's everyone doing this week?
Real good. Real good. Been hanging out.
Yeah. We haven't recorded a podcast since your little incident. Do you want to tell the audience about what happened to your precious little hand?
Yeah, I've been doing a little recovery after a motorcycle accident. I crashed.
Yeah. We almost lost a cherished member of our Social Drinkers family on the motorbike.
Yeah, it was a little close. A little too close. But
little too close. But now he's drinking again.
Yeah, got ourselves a nifty little,
little
scar there.
I haven't seen the scar since you got the bandage off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still got my stitch marks and everything.
That is rough. Well, that's the biggest update we have on our side as a Social Drinkers crew. If you got anything more interesting than that, send it in. I think hopefully it's not more interesting than a motorcycle crash. And by interesting, I mean catastrophic. So
catastrophic.
So hopefully not. But what's everyone drinking this week?
I went to Acme, which for those of you who don't know, that's a grocery store, and picked up something called Not Your Father's Root Beer.
Oh.
Looks like that.
Yep.
It's pretty good. Tastes like root beer.
Very familiar with Not Your Father's Root Beer. One of the hardest throw-ups I've ever had from drinking was from Not Your Father's Root Beer.
Dude, it's strong.
It's very strong, and it's got a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah, it's super sweet. Didn't I get that for you for your 21st birthday?
Yeah, you got it for my 21st birthday, and I drank all of them really fast. And then we went to Jamie's house, and I had to throw up, and I threw up all over the side of her house.
That's right.
Sorry, Jamie. Not really. But anyway, that drink can be a little dangerous if you take it too quickly.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay.
Well, I am drinking a glass of white wine. It is Oyster Bay is the brand. I've been recently getting into white wine in like the last 2 years, I would say. So I don't know too much about it, but I did say this on a previous episode, but if you're new, I will still give the little tip. If you're looking for a good white wine, New Zealand makes really good white wine, and that's where this is from. It's made in New Zealand. I think the price point's pretty good, like $15 or something. So, yeah.
I think you've started to get into white wine ever since you decided that you're a seasonal drinker. Once you decided that was your brand, you've started to get into white wine.
No, I didn't decide that it was my brand. I just found myself gravitating towards those drinks in the summer, lighter drinks, in the winter, darker drinks, which is like common. In the summer, you eat salads and colder food, and in the winter, you eat more like soups and warmer, homier food.
You don't have to defend it. I'm not arguing. I agree. I would also say that I'm a seasonal drinker as well, except I'm not abiding by the seasonal drinking tonight. I'm drinking rye, just neat rye, but it's a special rye, and it ties right into the first thing I brought this week. This rye, anybody want to take a guess at what brand it is? You'll never guess, so maybe not. Ray says
I know
no.
what it. Yeah,
well,
I know.
You know what it is.
Cheating.
You know what it is. It's called Wiggle Whiskey, and Wiggle Whiskey has a really, really interesting history behind the name of the distillery. So first, where is Wiggle Whiskey? It's in the Strip District in Pittsburgh, which I would liken it to. I'm not going to liken it to a city because those of you listening might not know what I'm talking about. If I talk about cities I've been to, you may not have been there, but it's an area that's being gentrified. Lots of distilleries, breweries, Lululemon type stores, Peloton type stores. If you get my description, it's a lot of upscale spots that are being gentrified into a previously not so upscale spot. So it's a really cool area of Pittsburgh, and Wiggle Whiskey sits right within that. They have really great food if you're looking for a place to eat while you're in Pittsburgh, but the whiskey is outstanding. And it's pretty funny because I've tried a lot of different whiskeys, bourbons, ryes, straight whiskeys, and I was told that Wiggle Whiskey is some of the best whiskey you'll ever taste. And I didn't really believe it. And then we went and did a flight. I had a Manhattan with some rye to see the quality, and it was just phenomenal. It is phenomenal. I have the single barrel rye or the single cask rye. I can't remember which one I have. I'd have to look at the bottle, but I have one of their ryes, and it's so smooth. It's got the perfect amount of earthiness, smokiness, and still a little bit of sweetness so that it's not super harsh like some ryes can be. But it is outstanding. Now, I'm going to stop and let it breathe because I realize I'm talking a lot. I feel like I'm lecturing about this whiskey. But have you guys, A, ever been to the Strip District in Pittsburgh, and B, heard of Wiggle Whiskey before?
No, neither.
Okay.
Yeah, no, neither. But I will say that I tasted the whiskey, and you are right. It is some of the best whiskey ever. It's got like caramely flavor, and you can actually really smell the flavor too, which I feel like isn't as common for whiskey to have super strong flavor in its scent.
I would agree with that. I would agree. And they do a great job with that balance. So I highly recommend it. You can buy it online. If you're close to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's worth a trip anyway. It's a super cool city. But if you're in Pittsburgh, head down to Wiggle Whiskey and give it a shot. You won't regret it. But the name is where the history really sits. And I think it's interesting. So it's commonly believed that the Wiggle family owns Wiggle Whiskey, and that is not true. The family who owns Wiggle Whiskey, let me get this right, is, where's the name of the family? The Nutting family. The Nutting family.
That's what she said.
Anyway, the Nutting family owns Wiggle Whiskey, not the Wiggle family. And if you've ever heard of Philip Wiggle, that name might be ringing a bell from history class. So Philip Wiggle was the distiller in Western Pennsylvania who headed the Whiskey Rebellion. Do you guys remember what the Whiskey Rebellion was?
I don't. Can you explain it to me?
I didn't figure that either of you would. It's been a while since we've been in history class, but the Whiskey Rebellion happened in 1794 when the U.S. government put an excise tax on whiskey, and it put a lot of pressure on distillers. And much of the distilling at that time was going on in Western Pennsylvania. And so they say, and it's really true, that American whiskey was born in Western PA. So they put this excise tax on whiskey production, and distillers in Western PA aren't having it, especially Philip Wiggle, who heads a whiskey rebellion in 1794 that causes George Washington to dispatch troops, and there's a little bit of a skirmish all over whiskey, to which end the U.S. government wins. Philip Wiggle is sentenced to death by hanging, and George Washington pardons him. It's interesting because in a prior newsletter that we put out in Shots, if you read it, you would know that George Washington loved his whiskey. He even had a distillery on his property during the late 1700s. And so it's interesting that Philip Wiggle was pardoned. But that is the story of Wiggle whiskey, or Philip Wiggle. I'm sorry, but the Wiggle family does not own Wiggle whiskey. That's what I was trying to get at.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't George Washington also have beer brewed?
I don't know. I
His
don't.
own recipe.
I don't want to misspeak. I'm not positive on that. I wouldn't doubt it, though. I know that they were all big drinkers back then. I just know that on his property, he distilled whiskey and would provide a barrel of his own whiskey for events at the White House and things like that.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that there was like, I could have sworn it was like the Washington recipe was like released and they were brewing, some big company was brewing George Washington's recipe.
Huh.
Yeah,
And they
Wait,
were in little stubby bottles. You remember that? It was
Yeah.
around
It's
the time
ringing-
that you got married.
It's ringing a bell, and I can't remember though.
Were they Budweiser cans? I think that, or not cans, but
They're
little
stubbies,
Yeah, I think it was Budweiser. I almost want to say.
but it was a different recipe. It was George Washington's recipe.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about, and I don't know. For those of you listening, I don't know if it was George Washington's recipe or if it was inspired by George Washington, but you're right. There were little stubbies with George Washington's face on it. It was like a patriotic beer. We need to bring that to the next episode. Yeah, because if I remember right, they were also very good. I remember drinking quite a few of those beers when they came out.
Yeah, it was
where they went.
Budweiser.
Okay. I thought it was Budweiser. Yeah. Plus it had the goat on them. So that's why you want to drink it.
The goat.
So that's my first point of the week, though. Wiggle whiskey, highly recommended. A storied history surrounding Philip Wiggle. Very fun.
Very fun.
So why is it called Wiggle? If he did, is it just inspired by him? So that's why it's called Wiggle.
Yeah. So the Whiskey Rebellion happened in Western Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh's in Western Pennsylvania. So it's inspired by Philip Wiggle and the Whiskey Rebellion.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So if you're listening and you've ever been to Wiggle, go to our Instagram and leave us a comment on our latest post and let us know. And let us know if there's any other distilleries that you think we should visit. If you haven't been to Wiggle, or if you have, well, I keep wanting to call it Whistle because of Whistle Pig.
Yeah. I know it does clash a little bit with that, but yeah.
Very interesting.
What else we got?
I have quite the facts for you this week.
Oh, nice.
Let's hear it.
So, the color of your eyes directly correlates to your alcohol dependency.
I don't believe that.
You do you. But I'm just telling you, according to a researcher at, I believe it was Boston College. I'm not 100% positive about that. But they did research and found that people with blue eyes are more likely to be alcohol dependent than people with darker eyes. And it has something to do with your tolerance when you have darker eyes is lower because your mental capacity for drugs and alcohol is lower. So you're not drinking as much when you're drinking it. People with lighter colored eyes are drinking more to get the same effect, and therefore they're becoming more alcohol dependent.
Seriously?
Yep.
Look at this. I pulled up this study. This is a summary of the study from the Addiction Resource Center. A new study has shown that there's a relationship between your eye color and your alcohol tolerance. It correlates a connection between people with dark eyes and high alcohol tolerance and people with blue eyes and low alcohol tolerance. As strange as it may sound, eye color does seem to affect your alcohol tolerance. Among the people with European industry, dark eyes tend to be associated with high alcohol tolerance. Why though? The connection between eye color and alcohol tolerance is more anecdotal. New research shows that there's a connection between the color of your eyes. I don't know. We'd have to dive into this, but that is interesting. The study exists. Ray, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I just think so. It's interesting. The study you pulled up, I think that people are very disputed over this topic then, because the study I pulled up said that blue and lighter colored eyes have a higher tolerance,
Interesting.
Yeah.
The one I just
causing
read
them to
said
be
dark.
Yeah, so maybe people are out of their minds, but
Oh,
I
no.
thought that was an interesting fact.
That's an interesting theory, though. In my experience, it makes more sense that darker eyes would have a higher tolerance and lighter eyes would have a lower tolerance. I just think for me personally, I'm very fair skinned. I have light hair, I have light eyes, and I feel like I'm super sensitive to a lot of things. And I feel like people that I've talked to with light tones are sensitive to a lot of things too. I'm sensitive to light, I'm sensitive to heat. My skin is very sensitive. I'm sensitive to alcohol. So I don't know. It's interesting.
This is definitely very anecdotal. Somebody's going to call BS on this one hard.
Hey, well, according to the National Health Institute, the odds of a blue-eyed person being alcohol dependent is 1.8-fold higher than an American of European descent with brown eyes.
Well, so Ray, no one's in dispute then. That means that blue-eyed people would be less tolerant of alcohol. If you're intolerant of alcohol, you'd have a higher likelihood of becoming dependent on alcohol.
The study that I read said that because they had a higher tolerance, they were consuming more, making them more dependent.
We're going to need to do some more digging on this one as well. I have to dive into this. This is interesting.
It seems very there's a physical correlation between how much you're drinking and your eyes.
It is interesting because there is a lot of anecdotal evidence that I can think of as well. But I want to know why, what's causing it. What are they? I got to go read this study. That's really interesting. And then I'll bring a deep dive. How's that? That's my part of the deal to a future episode. I'll bring a deep dive of this study because I'm very interested in this. Nice find.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting.
Kate, what did you bring today?
So I brought a little game that we're going to play.
Ooh,
sounds interesting.
Yes. So the game the game inspired me because I've been seeing so many celebrity brands, alcohol brands pop up. One of the most recent, we were sitting in a bar and on the shelf was this really, really cool bottle of whiskey. It was in a rectangle and it looked like it was in a glass box, but it was actually the bottle of whiskey itself. And I looked it up and it is called Mercer and Prince, and it happens to be by A$AP Rocky. And it got me thinking, there are so many celebrity alcohol brands that we have no idea. So I figured I would do a little quiz for you guys to see if you can guess what alcohol brand is correlated to what celebrity.
Let's do it.
Okay. So as I was doing this, I was just going to let you kind of free for all guess, but I think that would be way too hard. So you're going to there's 5 alcohol brands and we're going to go one by one. And each one, I'm going to list 4 different people that could own the brand. So,
so we get multiple choice. It's that hard. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like state testing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The first one is called Born and Bred Vodka. And your options are Zac Efron, Chris Hemsworth, Channing Tatum, or Scott Eastwood.
Who's up first?
You can go.
What was the name of the alcohol?
Born and Bred Vodka.
Okay.
Ray, is it me or you?
You go ahead.
Okay. Born and Bred Vodka. You gave 4 of the same people with different names. Let's see. Get it?
Do you like my strategy there?
Yeah.
I did that on purpose.
Born and Bred. Scott Eastwood.
I'm gonna go with Hemsworth.
Both of you are wrong.
Dang it.
Channing Tatum.
Ah, man.
Yep.
I thought Born and Bred, Clint's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That tracks, but no, Channing Tatum. Super cool branding. We'll link it in the show notes so you guys can check it out. I've never actually seen this in stores. It's actually potato vodka, so I can drink it. I'm very eager to try and see if I can find it because I'm interested. The branding is really cool.
I want to hear Chris Hemsworth say born and bred.
Born and bred.
Like, that's all I want.
All right, Ray, you're up. I'm 0 for 1.
Okay.
Well,
the
I'm
next
over.
one is Hag Club with what?
We got to get some clarity on the rules here for a second, because do we each get a shot on this, or is it I get a question, then Ray gets a question?
No, you each get a shot.
Oh, okay. So we were both wrong on that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
We're 0
I just
for
wanted to
1.
make sure. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Thought that was clear. We got some thick social drinkers in the house.
No, we're just competitive. I want to know. You got to know. Yeah, you need clarity on the rules in case at the end there's conflict on the score.
Got it. Understood. All right. Hag Club Whiskey is the next. And it is, your options are Pharrell Williams, Cristiano Ronaldo, David Beckham, Idris Elba.
David Beckham.
Mitch?
Idris Elba.
The answer is David Beckham.
Dang. 1-0, Ray.
Only a soccer player would call something club.
That's true. Dang it.
That's why I threw in Cristiano Ronaldo, because I was like, you could guess it.
Yeah.
Okay. Indigo Gin. Akon, Snoop Dogg, Pitbull, DJ Khaled.
Akon.
Okay. Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg is
Dang
correct.
it.
Gin and juice, dude.
Yeah, but Akon likes purple, so I thought maybe,
It's the way that it's spelled is INDOGGO.
Oh, well, that gives it away.
If you would have seen the actual spelling, I tried not to pronounce it like that.
Yeah.
To throw you off.
Dang, I'm getting killed.
Second to last, we've got King Street Vodka. Your options are Reese Witherspoon, Kate Hudson, Anne Hathaway, or Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore.
Reese Witherspoon.
Both wrong.
Dang
Kate
it.
Hudson.
What the heck?
That was my second choice.
This game is rigged.
It's hard.
I thought maybe because King Street's in Charleston and Reese Witherspoon's from the South, I thought maybe it was some ode to that. Dang it.
Yeah. Yep.
My guessing sucks.
Okay. Last but not least, Ferguson Crest. And this is actually a winery. It's like a 6-acre piece of land that's a winery. So they distill, or is distill the right word for what you do with wine?
Ferment.
Actually, no.
Yeah,
No, ferment wine.
Right. Okay. Well, they
it's not a distillery. They ferment wine.
They create wine. So Ferguson Crest is the name. The options are Jesse Tyler Ferguson, Ferguson Jenkins, or Fergie.
Fergie's the only one I know out of those people.
Me too.
The one with Ferguson as their first name.
I'm going to do the one with Ferguson as their last name.
Okay, so Jesse Tyler Ferguson, he's from Modern Family.
Which one is he?
He plays Cam's husband. What's his name?
Mitchell.
Yep.
That's
and then Ferguson Jenkins, I'm not entirely sure who Ferguson Jenkins is. They're famous.
So it's not him.
It's Fergie. Her family owns this winery.
Ah! Dang it. Lost. That
Yep.
was hard.
But now I know I was not going to give you the options, and then I was like, this is going to be too hard. I have to give you guys the options.
Yeah, we would have never gotten one
No.
of those. Oh my
Not
god.
Yeah.
a chance.
Gee, many. Wow. Well, shaking off a little bit of frustration after the loss.
The
Before I jump
alcohol
into
celebrity world is robust. It's
It
wild.
is robust. It's insane. Literally every celebrity has an alcohol brand. And
Mhm.
I don't know, you and I have explored this a little bit, but not enough to talk about it with any sort of expertise. But there are companies out there that help them launch these. They ideate the entire brand, what it's going to be, celebrity gets behind it, and then that company basically does all the work and launches it.
I did
So-
notice that it seemed like Channing Tatum's was privately owned.
Okay.
It seemed that, and then I know for sure that David Beckham's is owned by Diageo, which would
Okay.
make sense. That's what George Clooney's
Yeah.
brand is also owned by.
Well,
I'm pretty sure that Pharrell Williams works with Bruno Mars on Selvaray.
okay.
Oh,
Here-
interesting.
I've seen him in the commercials.
There's also tons of acquisitions that occur because Casamigos wasn't always owned by Diageo. They sold it for, I think they sold for $900 million when they sold or something like that.
Yeah.
George Clooney made way more money selling that than movies. Kind of like
Mhm.
Ryan Reynolds.
Impressive.
Yeah. So I have an update to something that we've talked about on the podcast and something that we've written about in the newsletter that I think is really interesting. So we've talked about wines, and I think it was just wine that we talked about when we did it on the podcast and in the newsletter. So we did a segment where we talked about wines not having to disclose nutrition facts and health information on their bottling. And that is getting an update slightly. So in 2026 in Ireland, alcohol packaging is going to be required to disclose nutrition facts, things like cancer warnings, liver disease warnings, all of these different types of health risks that you face or that they have to at least disclose when you're consuming alcohol. I thought it was interesting because there's a big movement, like we talked about, for this to happen. And the reason I think it's interesting is because of how slow this legislation occurs. That's not a very big change. It's not a monumental shift at all. All they're really doing is saying, hey, you might get liver disease if you drink alcohol, duh. But it is progress, and it's a change that's coming to Irish distributors. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say that. I guess Irish alcohol distribution in 2026. So it'll be interesting to see how that shift occurs throughout the rest of the world.
That's interesting because I want to feel like that there is some type of warning already on alcohol bottles, but I think it's like don't consume if you're pregnant or something like that.
Yeah.
So
There is.
That's the big thing. So on there, it's don't consume if you're pregnant. That's the warning right now. They now have to, let me see here. They have to give a heads up about liver disease and any potential cancers that can be caused by alcohol. Those are the big changes on top of calorie counts and grams of alcohol. They don't necessarily, I guess, worldwide have to include grams of alcohol. They do have to include ABV, but that's a little subtle shift as well.
Interesting. Well, continue to keep us updated because, like we said previously, we could very much be seeing calories and nutrition facts on our wine label. Not wine. Well, yeah, the story that you shared last time was with wine, but just our alcohol bottles in general.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
Changes are coming.
So I brought one more very slight interesting fact, and I'm going to ask you, why do you think humans initially started looking for alcohol? way back when, first people that drank, why do you think they were drinking it?
So I think that it's because the water was not healthy. There was like a lot of disease, I guess, bacteria in the water, and so they turned it into alcohol to make it drinkable.
I was gonna
Okay,
say
Mitch.
maybe they were cutting water with alcohol to clean or sanitize the water because it was dirty. Um, that's the only thing I can think as a really root use of alcohol. But
Okay. Well, according to scientists somewhere, don't know where, the ones that Esquire uses.
okay.
We initially started our relationship with alcohol because it made us less likely to starve to death.
Hmm.
And then somewhere
Interesting.
along the line, we noticed that we get drunk. And then that became a celebratory thing.
I always thought that maybe we found alcohol on accident. Someone
Well,
just
I'm
got
assuming they
hammered
did.
drunk. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
imagine that like people were starving to death, and then somebody like found some alcohol somehow, and they were like, "I'm living longer
Interesting.
without
So
food."
so do the calories from alcohol save you from starving to death is basically what happened. They
That's
were
Apparently,
okay.
yeah, that's my
it's
guess.
like pushes you a little bit further along the line. So hey, if you're ever stranded in a raft and you have a flask,
There you
don't
go.
share.
See, I think it really just takes your mind off the pain that you're in.
That could be.
You're
That
less
could
likely
be.
to give up.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. Well,
I
that's
can
really
do it.
interesting. I would have bet anything that it was to sanitize or
Me
something
too.
along those lines.
Pretty interesting though. Pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
definitely.
That is interesting. I also have one more thing that I wanted to share before we wrap up the podcast this week. There is a product that I found, and it's called Say So. And it is a mixer, essentially, but it's in a tea bag. So they have different flavors, and the whole premise is that you don't ever have to like shake a cocktail, mix a cocktail again. You steep it, and then you add your liquor to this mix. And so they have only a few flavors. They have the skinny spicy margarita, the skinny cardamom paloma, the old fashioned, and then the rosemary honey Moscow mule. And so it literally looks exactly like a tea bag. There's no alcohol or anything in it, and you just steep it and then add your liquor.
That's interesting. I would be really interested to try that and compare the taste to a traditional cocktail because I think of something like an old fashioned. I guess there's probably sugar in the tea bag. And then bitters, you could get that taste in non-liquid form very easily.
Well, it's made with bitters.
Yeah, that's what you
Mhm.
could. I'm just thinking of these cocktails. The only thing I can think the difference would be that they'd be lower proof because a lot of the times you're using a liqueur of some kind and now you're using a non-alcoholic mixture in this tea bag. But that's interesting. I really would be curious to try that.
Yeah.
It's almost like infusing a
Yeah,
cocktail.
it's just like, yeah, you're basically infusing whatever base spirit that you'd go with there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll
Hmm.
have it linked below if anyone wants to try it. Let me see the price point real quick. For a pack of 8, it's $16. So I don't think that's too bad.
No, I feel like
$2.
that's not that bad.
$2
Yeah.
each. Yeah.
Not bad at all. And not bad at all in this podcast episode, I would say. You guys got
All
anything
right.
else?
All right.
I think that's it.
All right. All right. Well, as always, you know where to find us everywhere on the internet. That's where we are. Just kidding. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok. We post on YouTube. We have a newsletter that I'm trying to think of all the content. We have a newsletter that goes out every week. It's called Shots. That's my favorite thing that we do. I love doing the podcast, but the newsletter is something where we get to dive really deep on topics of news and history and recipes and all kinds of things. So if you or someone that you know would find that interesting, go ahead and subscribe to that. Also, I've just started tweeting, which is really funny because Twitter is a mess. It sucks to be on. There's so much like trash on there, but we're gonna tweet. So if you want to go over to Twitter, that was such a great advertisement for going on Twitter.
Twitter sucks. Come
Twitter
follow us.
sucks.
Twitter sucks, but we don't. So come look at our Twitter. Yeah, that would be super cool if you followed us on there. We post on LinkedIn. Just kidding. No, we don't.
Hey, for all the old people out there, we have a Facebook.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot the Facebook. And then we post this podcast every single Thursday. So subscribe and do all the things. Follow, share it. Don't buy anything because we don't have anything to sell. But yeah, whatever.
If you've made it this far, take a screenshot and post it on your story and give us a tag at We Are Social Drinkers, and we'll repost you, and then we can have some conversation about the episode.
Nice.
Right. We want free shout outs. Give them to us.
Yes, we do. All right. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
I'm empty. Cheers,
I'm empty.
guys.
Almost.
Cheers.
Cheers.